just it likes to come after you when you least expect it, and you're like, oh, everything's going great. Boom, Murphy's Law.
Yeah.
This is not working.
But only when the muse is away playing. Let's see. The muse is off playing with somebody else.
That's it. You got to be ready. You got to be ready and willing to just go with the flow and experience what's coming at you. That's just how it is.
That's how.
And speaking of, welcome everybody, all of our wonderful watchers and listeners. This is another week of Spilling Ink, and as you notice, we are very short on people this week because Murphy's Law is in play. Hopefully, we'll see Jay a little bit later. But you've got me right now, and you've got our wonderful guest, Valerie, and we promise to bring you some entertaining information. But before we start that, we got to pay homage to our sponsor because we absolutely love our first sponsor, Go Indie Now. So here you go.
Hello, everybody. I am Joe Compton, and welcome to our channel, Go Indie Now. This is the place that celebrates indie artists and indie art, and we do so by producing several shows that either air on daily, weekly, monthly, or seasonal scheduling. And within those shows, we aim to educate and entertain you. If you're an indie artist who's trying to figure out how to do this, this is the place you need to be. If you're an indie artist who's looking to promote and doesn't have any avenues and is tired of the grind, this is the place to be. Because remember, it's always time to go indie now.
That's right. It is always time to go indie now. And the boss is watching. Hi, Joe.
Hi, Joe.
Yeah, we got a few people here in the chat. Hello, welcome everybody. Today we are going to be talking about motivation and writing. So I want to jump right into it. But Valerie, I want to give you a chance to introduce yourself to our audience. For those who do not know you, go on ahead.
Okay. Hi, I'm Valerie J Runyan. I am a writing life coach here in Las Vegas, Nevada. And I'm an author of 3 published books and founder and creator of 2 distinct virtual writing retreats. And I just like to say hello to my friends and in the Henderson Writers Group, and especially Meow. And just thank everyone for being here and supporting Spilling Ink and me and Kate.
That's right. You get both of us tonight. And I love that we get to talk about writing as a life coach, as a motivator to really get people to push past the problems in their manuscript. That is so important, and especially for first-time authors out there.
Oh, yes.
They find that first draft, they put so much pressure on themselves that they don't allow the creativity to flow. So really, I'm excited to talk about this tonight.
Yes. Being a writing life coach, deal with many writers who want to write and they don't know where to start. And what I say to them is just think about what it is that you've always wanted to write when you were younger. Just think about what is it that you want to write: poetry, short stories, whatever it is you wanted to write. And then just sit down and think about, and just start writing. It's kind of a stream of consciousness kind of thing, how to start. And with Julian Cameron, she used to call it the morning papers. I call it something different. But it's basically just clearing your mind to get yourself into the mindset of writing. So just for like 5 minutes, you just write. Take a piece of paper and just write. Never mind punctuation, never mind spelling, and you just write until you're done. And then what you do with that piece of paper is you ball it up and you throw it away. So now you're primed to write. And when you're now in this mode, you're just thinking about your characters, thinking about the setting, and you just write what you are seeing, you write what you are feeling. This you don't throw away. and it usually starts just to flow out of you. And that's that's how I usually suggest that my clients start. So without putting so much pressure, oh, it's got to be a bestseller. Oh, I want to make the New York Times bestseller list, or I want to write an article for the New York Times and everything like that. And that's where you're holding yourself up. All you need to do is just write what's already in you, instead of trying to make it something. Just write what's already there.
I love that. I love that. And that's very similar to the advice that I give to my clients as well. My mantra is the first draft is supposed to suck.
Yes.
Shut the editor off.
Yes.
Get the words on the page. No one is going to read that first draft but you. No. So you have no worries about whether or not it sucks, because guess what? It's supposed to be a hot mess. It's supposed to suck. You can't fix something that isn't on the page. So get it on the page first.
Yes. Yeah. And Lamont, it's supposed to be it's supposed to be a bad first draft, but you have to have clay in the first place to mold it into something. You can't have words. You can't mold a story if you don't have any words.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And if you stick in your mind that something has to be perfect on the first go around, you're never going to get there, because perfection is impossible.
And it doesn't exist. It's a ghost that you're perpetually chasing, and you're never going to catch it because it's not possible. So, I mean, no one started off, being perfect. No, Stephen King didn't start off being perfect, and Lamont didn't start off being perfect. No one started off being perfect, but they had to have the words first.
All right. So Mike says that he agrees to an extent, but he likes to like his first drafts. And I agree. You do need to like what you're writing to an extent.
To an extent, yes.
But you shouldn't achieve perfection on that first draft, because you have so much more revisions to do. There is more than just the way you write sentences that's going to be corrected in your drafts. There is more depth that you're going to add. There is more scene setting. There is more nuance in your character interactions. So that first draft should not be where you place all of the pressure on yourself. The first draft is where creativity lives.
Yeah, it's not the end all be all, and it's not what you're going to be sending to anyone. So, but that's your building block. That's the framework of your house. You're building a house. You have you hear the framers when you hear all that hammering out there. Those are the framers. They are framing the house, and your first draft is just the frame of your house. You have so many other drafts in which to decorate and form the walls and decide if you want to garden or not. So you're just doing the framing of your house.
Exactly. But that is what stops a lot of authors, especially first timers, from completing that first draft. That's one of the biggest roadblocks, is the drive for perfection. And that's not the only thing that stops them, but that is the number one, I think, that does stop new authors from getting to the end, getting to that finish line.
Yeah, and they think that the finish line, okay, this is it. And then you do something horrible and say, oh, this is just such trash, and you throw it out. No. It's the clay. You're starting to mold it. It's the frame of a house. Okay, you have to put the roof on. You have to put the walls up, the drywall and the foundation, and the doors and the windows. So the first draft is just the frame. All the other drafts that you take from the frame, okay, how many windows does this frame of house usually have? How many windows do I want? Do I want 2 windows? Do I want 1 window? Do I want 5 windows? How many windows do I want? How many doors do I want? Do I just want the front door and no back door? Or do I want a front door, back door, and a side door? So, but you have to have the frame in order to make all of those adjustments. And you need other drafts from the frame in order to make the windows and the doors.
Absolutely. And I've got a post. We'll touch on it a little bit later, because we do have a question that came in about the 5 different things that can stop up an author. So we will touch on that later. But Joe with Go Indie Now says, I'm curious Valerie's thoughts on doing doing multi-books at one time. It's often a directive given to young writers that they should write as much as humanly possible in near succession.
Writing multiple books at the same time is what I do. What I personally do. I do work on two different things at the same time for two reasons. One reason I work on two things is because I can get stuck on one project. Okay, say I'm writing a short story. I'm going to get stuck on, I don't know if there's going to be a cat or not. I don't know if I want it to be a cat. So, and then I work on something else, perhaps screenplay. Let's see. Now, what is this character? Are these two characters talking or in a bar? Are they talking in a bar or are they doing something else? So you're using two separate sides of your brain, because while your brain is on whether the two characters are going to be talking in a bar or fighting in the street, and then while your brain is figuring that one out, then you figure out, well, maybe the cat will be the one walking through the blood and then, and walk to the police station. So your brain is working on two different things. Your brain is resting on this story and picking on this story. So that's the reason that I do two different things. And it's great to do two different opposite things. If I'm working on a nonfiction, then I work on something fiction. If I'm working on fiction, then I work on something sci-fi. So you're giving your brain different areas of stretching, and therefore more creativity is coming in, more words are coming in to working your main project. So that's why people are told that to work on two different things, in succession. That can hang you up, because then well, this one's got to be good, so this one can, so this will be good, so then the publishing company will pick up, the whole series. You drive yourself crazy. Don't do that. So just work on two different things so that your brain has two different distinct problems to work on. So your brain is always within the flow of creativity.
I like that. And I'll add to that just a little bit. I like the palate cleanser that is switching gears sometimes, because if you do get stuck, if you hit that writer's block, where you finish chapter 3, but you can't figure out how to bridge that to chapter 4, sometimes taking a break, working on something different will clear your head enough to where you can come back fresh. But also, one of the things that I will tell a lot of my clients is, if you get stuck and you stopped at chapter 3 and you can't figure out how to bridge the gap to chapter 4, put a pin in it. Move to chapter 6.
Yes.
Start there. You're still in the same project. You're still in the same mindset, but it's a different set of conflict that you're setting your characters up for. So it is a little bit of a palate cleanser without having to fully change gears.
Yes.
And through that, you will eventually work backwards in bridging that gap. You'll figure it out, but you don't have to do it right now.
Yeah, I mean, and it's everything is not as urgent as it seems. And you don't have to solve, the who done it, by 11:59 on Tuesday, because you promised yourself you would write 500 words today. So writers need to cut themselves some slack. It's not all that urgent. That you have to solve everything in this moment, right this second. You just make yourself crazy and burn yourself out. And really, do you want to do that?
And that is the big thing too. The writers who are on, and I like to call it the hamster wheel, where they feel like, especially in the indie marketplace, I have to put out book after book after book after book, and I can't stop, because if I stop, then my readers will stop reading me and they'll expect more things now, and I've got to get it done right now. No, slow down. Breathe. You are going to burn yourself out, and then you will no longer have the joy in writing, which is what makes you want to write.
And then it'll become a chore. And oh God, I got to start writing today. No, that you don't want to treat your creativity like it's a burden. Being a creative is a privilege. So that's so doing everything. I mean, yes, I have published 3 published books out in the world right now today. And the first one is 2 years old.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And the second one will be a year old. And the third one is still kind of toddlerish age. So, but they're all out in the world, and I put them out. It may seem time wise, successively and linearly, but really in real time, it was not. It was 3 years, 3 years, 3 books. So mathematically, it works out that way.
You have to take into account too, if you look at the traditional versus the indie marketplace.
Mhm.
So indies, yes, can put books out faster.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean they're necessarily writing them faster. They're just putting them out as soon as they're done with them. Whereas in the traditional marketplace, they write the book. They may have time that they have to sell the book to an agent or editor. And then there's the timeline between that and when it gets published.
Yes.
And if they've been working that whole time while their book is in the cycle, yes, the successive books might come out one after the other.
Yes, it does seem like that. Yes, it does. But usually it's about a year between books. I mean, yes, indeed, depending on the type of books you write and the type of, format that you wish to put it out in, yes, that can be quick like that. But usually writing a book from idea to actually having it in your hand is a year, indie and traditionally. It works out. The timeline works out the same. But it's just that when writers who are traditionally published, as soon as that first book out, they are mostly done with the second book and on its way. And the first part of the book is already at an editor. So they're doing that. So as soon as that book is done, they're already on the third book while the second book is finishing being edited and then it's being packaged. And then you go on a book tour for that one and you're still writing the third book. So that's that timeline. But as an indie writer, yes, you can write one book, yes, and get it out depending on, if you've got a printer in your house, fine. But you're putting it out and then you're writing, you're always writing. Writers are always writing. See, that therein lies the thing. Writers are always writing.
Exactly. Now, Mike brings up a good point, and we had talked about this pre-show that we wanted to touch on it. So Mike says, so far, I haven't felt like it's a chore, but I'm struggling to find the time and energy as well as brain power to get the writing done. And this is another one of those big problems that stops us from finishing.
Yes, and I have solutions for that.
Let's do this. All right, everybody get your pens and your paper out because we're going to get schooled here.
All right. Now, these suggestions are from a brochure that is on my my website, and we'll do with the how to get to that later. First of all, finding the time. Now, every single one of your 24 hours is not filled. Okay. Yes, there's sleep. Yes, there's family. Yes, but you know what? If there are pockets of time, okay, there's 15 minutes here, there's half an hour there, there's 20 minutes over here. So all of your time, many writers think that all of the writing has to be done all at one time and all in one sitting at a certain specific time. Do you know how many books are written in half-hour increments? You can find 15 minutes here, 15 minutes there, and Elizabeth Gilbert says it in Big Magic all the time. You can find 15 minutes. Treat your writing as if you're having an affair with it. And people know that people having an affair will find time to, grab a couple minutes to just, whoop it up in some kind of private place. They will find the time. Okay.
Rebecca is in the comment section. I know, with all the innuendos, because I love that. I absolutely love that analogy.
You will. That's because not every single, you think and your life feels like every single minute is taken. When you sit back and you're like, wait a minute, I'm out here smoking a cigarette. I could be writing a character plot in the 5 minutes I'm smoking a cigarette. There you go.
Yep.
You can find the time.
That's right. While you're out smoking that cigarette, even if you're not writing it down, you could be thinking about it so that when you jump back at your computer, you quickly just bang that out.
There you go. Yeah.
Hi everybody. Hi Valerie.
Hi, Jay.
It's so good to see you guys. I was in northern Michigan, which is it's about 3 hours away at kind of a girlfriend's weekend type thing, and so we're racing home because we came home a day early, and I had it timed to where I was going to be here within about 10 minutes. It was kind of close, but I could do it. And then I got pulled over just before we got into town, and it wasn't even because I was speeding, which is nice, because I had slowed down to come into town. Otherwise, I was doing like 80 miles an hour in my glorified golf cart. But my tags expired last year, and I never thought to go get them renewed. It just wasn't on my mind. The guy was like, "Yeah, it's been over a year. I'm gonna write you a ticket." I'm like, "All right, well, that's fair, you know." But I'm here now. I'm here. That's where my writing time went. The cop got it.
I think you should use that as a plot bunny, and you should add that into a story. Forgot to register for an entire year, and that is how they got them.
Yeah, I'm pretty
That's
horrible
how a
with that
criminal
stuff.
get caught. Yeah, and a criminal can get caught that way.
That's right.
Yes, absolutely. It's the stupidest things that get you caught.
Yeah, a broken tail light, that'll do you in. That's all it takes. But
I got away for 20 years and nabbed
You're not
because
the
I
only one, Jay.
forgot to register my tags.
well, but speaking of, because Katie, you said something about, when you're outside smoking that cigarette, be thinking about your story, or be thinking about story ideas, and I love that. And it's kind of funny because I have been seriously blocked up, and not in the gastrointestinal way, for a long
Milk of
time now.
magnesia. That
Yes,
should
milk
take
and
care of the
magnesia.
problem.
Oh yeah. There's no problem after that. But I've been so blocked up, and even about a month ago, I thought I was back in the zone. I started writing. I started fleshing out this character, and it was a beautiful character. And then I just got stuck after working on the character. I'm like, what the hell am I gonna do? And my wife just chimed in. I quick updated the registration online before we even got home. She actually beat me by like 2 seconds getting to the garage. She's fast. Heather's really good. But I had my idea for this story came from the strangest place, and it was just a couple days ago. My youngest was being actually bullied at school, and they told me about it, and all of a sudden that idea clicked with this character I was creating, and all of a sudden now I have it in my head. I know where the story is going, and I can again use elements from real life, use elements from their life, which is my favorite thing to do. And so it's just like one of those where it completely random, and it didn't happen while I was sitting down here thinking, okay, I'm a writer. It just was randomly in the car, and there it is. And so that's a good
and
thing.
your mind was somewhere, was doing, your part of your mind was doing something else and not concentrating on that, and then life seeped in and it clicked with what that character was going to be doing. So that's how it happens all the time. I recently wrote a short story that I'm tweaking for submission, and I have her. I know she drank, the red wine before, going on to her shift.
As one
at
does.
night. At night, yes. It's Las Vegas, and it's one of the jobs I had. I was actually writing. It's a short story. Is about one of the jobs I had, and so I was thinking, okay, I like Cabernet, and then I'm like, okay, thinking too hard on Cabernet, and then I was just thinking about something else. And then, wait a minute, there's this brand I like, and I just started writing down the characteristics, the flavors of the Cabernet. Then the Cabernet name came to me. So yeah, when you're doing something else, then just life just seeps in and just fills in the blanks of your characters and their environment or what they're doing.
Well, and I think part of it, I mean, I think some of it is the white noise effect.
Yes.
I do really well with white noise. I have some attention issues, but white noise really helps me focus on things. But also, I think that when you're thinking about something else, or when your mind is occupied with some menial task, you
Yeah.
know, it's like meditation, you know, other parts of it are freed up like that. And
Yeah.
it's funny how our brains work. You know, it really is.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's and somewhat different types of white noise. Some people like different types of music. Some people just like a particular movie that plays on loop, which one of my characters and another one of my stories, that's what he does. That's how his girlfriend is fixing dinner, and she knows what part of that where he is by the dialogue, and she's just starting, writing reciting a monologue, and that's his white noise, the same repetitive movie.
Mhm.
And so that's all
Sounds like
kinds
me.
of different. We all have kind of different types of white noise.
Mm.
I have a playlist. I have different playlists for different types of writing that I do, and I know these songs so well that they are my white noise. And sometimes there's movies, and then sometimes there are audiobooks. There's one audiobook that I repeatedly play, and Elizabeth Gilbert's Big Magic. Yeah, it is Big Magic. Big Magic is the soundtrack or my white noise for the story that I'm writing now, tweaking now, to submit. So yeah,
I
the white
love that.
noise
And
is important.
I do the same thing. My kids all know now that if I have The Hobbit playing, all
Mhm.
3 of the Hobbit movies, I'm
Yeah,
usually
you're
writing,
writing.
because
Yes,
that is my white noise. I know those movies so
yes,
well. I love the
yes.
music, the score, it's
Mhm.
all beautiful, and I don't actually have to listen to it. It just helps
It
me get
generates.
into a
Yes,
creative zone.
yes,
And I'll
I
do
yes.
the same with music. I'll put on, like, Lindsay Sterling's great for
Oh,
listening to
she's
while you're writing.
amazing.
Oh my
Love
god, I
her.
absolutely love her stuff, and so I will sit there and I will just listen to her music
Mhm.
on
Yes.
repeat while I'm working.
Yes, I have done that. I've written a piece, a particular, just a one-off piece. That's what I call my one-off pieces, where they're just basically that one-off pieces. And I was repetitively playing this one song, and for this particular piece, I have that's why I have different types of playlists. Sometimes I listen to the entire playlist. Sometimes there's a particular song on repeat for this particular, and it gets me into the mood of this particular story. So
Okay. What is the longest amount of time you have played one song?
4 hours.
Okay. I've gone
4
about
hours.
6 months while I was working on one project where I had to have that same music over and over and over
Yeah.
and over because I couldn't write
Yes.
without it. It became an obsession.
There's the Two
Yeah.
Steps from Hell, which does all instrumental music, and you can hear it in like different trailers and stuff like that. But
Mhm.
it's really like intense, like This Is Sparta kind of music.
Yeah.
And I went through a whole book where I kept looping their songs over and over because there's no lyrics; it's just instrumental. And I have a couple things I want to touch on here real quick before we
Wait. I got to make a
move on.
suggestion. I
Oh
got to make
yeah,
one
do it.
suggestion.
Do it.
Go to YouTube, type in Hans Zimmer.
Okay.
Those
Okay.
playlists are amazing to write
Hans
to.
Zimmer. Okay, I'll do that. I like that. I like Hans Zimmer. Okay, so a couple things. I've got my list here since I'm having I drank a Monster on the way home, so I'm just
Lit.
first. So first,
Why do
I'm
you
just
keep
noticing.
pushing me back to
Well,
full
because
screen?
I'm looking at your hair, Katie, and your hair looks phenomenal tonight. I love
Oh, thank
the
you.
color. It looks beautiful. So that was my first point.
Oh, well, thank you. I
Um,
appreciate that.
Second point is Joe said, okay, Joe, this is actually for you. You said editing TikTok videos, blah, 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 super boring and crazy, all the same. Yes, TikTok videos are obnoxiously boring to edit. However, I have a question for you. I've been told that TikTok gives priority to videos that are shot just in the TikTok app, not something that you put together and then upload it. So I'm wondering if you've heard that and if it's true, because I've been thinking about using TikTok for some kind of marketing, but if I can't actually do the editing in the professional program, I don't really want to do it. Okay, so there was that. All right, let's see. Hans Zimmer, that he's on my list too, but I don't need to ask about it because that's something you just told me. Okay.
John Williams and Rebecca also says Chill Step. So if you're on YouTube, look up
Chill Step.
Chilled Cow.
Okay.
Look up the channel Chilled Cow.
Chilled Cow. Okay.
Mhm.
And then Rebecca and Mike both were commenting about the bullying situation from my youngest. Rebecca said that she would come and abuse someone for me, which I always appreciate, Rebecca. I love that. You know, I was very, very upset when
It is
they first told
upsetting,
me.
though.
It is, and I know how horribly cruel children can be, and thankfully, my youngest is very mature. They've had to grow up with older siblings, and so they can actually talk to us about it and what's going on. But immediately when they told me, and there was those feelings of anger that went right into the story idea. I was like, okay, what's this character going to do about this situation? And it's kind of like the characters can do things that we never can. So it's much safer when it's on the page. So while I appreciate it, Rebecca, you know, I'm going to take care of matters in fiction, and actually with the school counselor as well, who we talked to
Yes, we
immediately.
need you on the outside. We need you on the outside, Rebecca.
Yes. All right, and then my last thing I wanted to bring up is because I was late, Valerie, I didn't get to hear what you write, and I was wondering if you could tell me what you write real quick. I know you probably already did, but
Actually, I'm a published author of 3 different books. One is my first one. So nine narratives of the different. It's called Quandaries of Love, and they're about the different types of love that we as human beings tend to find ourselves in within our lifetime. Same sex, different, opposite sex, differently abled, intergenerational, of love entanglements. My second book is Caterpillar: Pieces for My Golden Woman. This is the book that was the fruition of my midlife crisis when I turned 50, where I imploded my life, my complete and total life here in Las Vegas, my job, my house, my husband, my ex-husband, and everything. And these narratives were the fruition of how I came out the other side, kind of like a caterpillar butterfly coming out the other side. And my third book is my memoir titled Gospel of the Wordsmith, An Evolution of a Life in Words, writings from my 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s, and now. And since I could not remember what I wrote when I was 20, what I wrote when I was 40, and what I wrote, I can only remember Pandemic Pieces, which is in the now piece. They're all thrown together in poetry and prose, much like how Maya Angelou wrote her biographies with poetry and prose. So those are my 3 books that are out into the world. And so I write I just write different things. Like I said, Quandaries is my fiction, and Caterpillar and Gospel of the Wordsmith are both nonfiction, but for two different types of nonfiction.
Okay.
Because Caterpillar encases a story, which is it's about dragons. It's called a rencontre, allegory of a divorce, and there are the dragons fighting over an island, and then
Nice.
so there's a creative nonfiction piece in the middle of Caterpillar.
I like it. That's so. Thank you so much for sharing all that with me again. I'm assuming Katie asked you that stuff right away, so I appreciate it, because I always miss the good stuff at the beginning of the show.
Well, I didn't go into detail of the books. She knows I would, and the author of 3 books. So you got all of it.
That's
She
right.
just got the titles.
We jumped right into author advice, because
Yes,
I
yes.
was jumping on that one. I was like, yes, let's talk about this.
Well, author advice: do what your editor tells you. I'm Rebecca's. I know you're out there. She's my editor and my boss and my co-author for this project. With Rebecca, I'm almost done with it, and I have to say, some of this book is actually really pretty good. I mean, I'll get to certain passages and I'm like, wow, we put this together pretty well. It looks good, and I like it.
Yes. Yeah, when you with my books, all three of them, even when I've gone back reading through them, it's like this is good. I mean, when you like what you've written and you feel that this is good, it's not a vanity. It's not from a vanity vantage point. It's from reading, because we as writers, we read, and we know we can recognize good writing even within ourselves, and we should credit ourselves for our good writing. And too many writers do not do that. And we do, when we can look at our writing, like, this is very good. I'm proud of this. This is good. We're not being vain. We're just recognizing that I can write well. This is something that someone else, will be reading, and I am proud of this. So,
Well, and
yeah.
for someone, for many people, because many of us writers are, who are insecure about themselves and their writing, their work, I think that it's a profoundly constructive thing to read a piece of your own writing and be happy with it. I think that is really good for our health as artists. So
Yes, and own it. Oh, not just say, "Oh, well, I guess it's pretty good." No, own it. Okay, this is good. I like this. So because you're building your self-esteem muscle, and a lot of writing has to do with our self-esteem. But but to recognize and own it, and be proud of it, and that's a good thing. That's what keeps us writing, because hey, I wrote this great thing. Well, you know what? I can write something else great. This is not the end all be all last thing I'll ever write. That's good.
All those affirmations are so good for, and it goes for so many things. We host this podcast. I host another show. Katie hosts other shows with other people, and you can always feel it when you had a show that you were kind of like, I did okay, I was so, and then shows where you're like, man, that show just really kicked butt.
Yes.
And it makes you feel so good. It makes you want to do it again. And we need that.
I have it. Yes, I have that with my two distinct writing, virtual writing, virtual writing retreats. Jeez, the word just slipped out of my head. My two distinct virtual writing retreats. I have my Ink Drop Space virtual writing retreat, which I created for my. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I like it.
I couldn't help myself. Sorry.
ABC, always be creative. But that's why I have two distinct ones, and I'm very proud of both of them. Because they both bring me great amount of joy and just amazing. But the people who are in both retreats, they get something different out of it, and it's when you're proud of one thing, and then I didn't know if I could create another one. I thought Ink Drop Space virtual writing retreat, that's my retreat. That's it. And then my Golden Woman soiree virtual writing retreat, it's something that has been with me for years, and kept creeping up, getting closer and closer to the front of the stove, to the front of the stove, to the front of, now it's on the front burner. So and when we are proud of one thing, and we know that we can do it again, success is repeatable. And we have to acknowledge ourselves that yes, we can repeat this success.
Well, and for all the complexities of the human mind, in some ways we're quite simple in how the reward system works. When my kids were quite a bit younger, and I was at work, and they were driving my wife nuts one day, and she came up with a genius game. What she had the kids do is run all the way around the house, come back to the front door, and she would give each of them a single chocolate chip, and they would go again, and they just kept doing it over and over and over and over and over. And I was like, oh, what is this magic? If you reward us, we'll just keep doing it.
Yes. Well, when my children were young, I've written all my life. I've been writing all my life, through 2 marriages and everything. And my children were very young. And what I would do with my children is I would give them paper, their own notebooks and pens and everything. And I'm like, well, go in your room and you write a story about, with your dolls, and you just write that, until I'm done. So I would set the timer for 30 minutes and everything so that's how I got my writing time. And they got their writing time. So, when they got bored of writing or whatever, then they'd be playing with each other. And, I'd be practically interrupting them when I'm like, okay, time's up. We're playing. Okay, excuse me. I will go back to writing. Thank you.
Yeah, right.
That's
Don't
where I'm
let me
going
interrupt
wrong.
you. I'm good. I'm good.
I'm not using the carrot. I'm using the stick. Damn it.
Yeah, yeah, you're using the wrong bait. I want to answer a comment here real quick from Amanda Cardenas. Amanda, I apologize if I mispronounce your name. And there's a reason I want to address this particular one. So Amanda says, wordsmithing is an extremely intricate art. Not to make less of painting and drawing, but words are like reaching into others' brains and turning on lights within them to reveal their inner images. Now, here's what I want to say. One, this is beautifully written. This is a great comment, Amanda. This is wonderful. And I love how you describe writing and how we can reach into our readers and kind of manipulate those emotions to get them to feel how we want them to. That's gorgeous. However, I don't think it's any more difficult than a painter or a sculptor that can create something with 0 words that can maybe elicit exactly those same images and feelings. I mean, there have been pieces of art that, and so they used to say the word swoon, but there have been pieces of art that I've looked at in museums in Europe that I felt lightheaded looking at them because they were so well done, so intense. And I couldn't even describe the story they were telling. It was so powerful. So while I love how you described writing, I think that that's done with just about every art form. If you look at us and we write 100,000 word novel and we create something brilliant, a songwriter might write a song that sticks with us until we die in only 3 minutes. And so I think that all of these different art forms are just, they're exactly that. They're so different that it's absolutely impossible to compare them. But thank you for the comment, Amanda.
I don't think Amanda was comparing necessarily, but as far as painting with words, all disciplines start with a blank space, canvas or sheet of paper or computer screen. The words, the colors come through us. As the creative, we have to feel these things before we can articulate them onto the blank space. When a painter is painting something, they see something in their head and they have to choose the colors correlating with that picture that they have in their head to paint on that canvas. And with writers, we have to start with the emotion. We have to feel something before we can put the words. Okay, he was angry and wanted to kill. We, as the writer, have to feel that anger to articulate in the words how he's going to kill. So painting with words and painting with acrylics are interchangeably the same thing. They start from the same space. We, the creator, have to feel it first before we can articulate it onto the blank space.
Yeah.
That's
like
deep. That. I like it. I like it a lot. You make us sound so elegant. But really, I'm just going. I'm like the cat in that video.
The playing the piano cat. Yeah. But it's I'm not sure who said it, but because it's been said many a time, is if it's a murder mystery, no blood on the page, no blood, from the reader. I like to say no, no pain from the writer, then no tears from the writer, then no tears from the reader. We are writing a particularly heart-wrenching piece, and we want our readers to feel that heart-wrenching emotion. We, as the writer, have to feel that heart-wrenching emotion first.
Mm-hmm.
100%.
How many times
100%.
have me and Jane talked about the catharsis of putting all of the anger and frustration of the day that you can't respond to in polite society into
Yes.
that work? How many times has Jane said
Yes.
she got pissed off and so she killed characters at night because she couldn't do it during the day? That's that raw emotion that you put in there. You translate it to the page.
And I think sometimes that's actually a barometer for me. If someone reads, like, I have a couple stories in particular that were heart-wrenching for me to write, and I still get upset reading them. And so if somebody else reads those and doesn't have a reaction, I'm like, okay, here. Either I really did a shit job or you're a psychopath. And I think you're a psychopath.
Could be either one. You never know.
But we have to access
in editing.
We have to access our inner. I mean, we are fully formed human beings, and we have to access all of our emotions, even if we think, no, I can't be a psychic. If somebody pisses you off enough, guess what? Yeah, you are. In that instant moment and getting on a page, yeah, you are. And then you can be nice and just, and say, okay, nice kitty. But in that moment, yeah, you are. You are thinking of the most dastardly way a human being can die.
You're not wrong.
and on the flip side, when I'm editing, because I'm editing a series right now that's all murder mysteries, one of my favorite things to do is to suggest ways for it to be more brutal. Really twist that knife in there.
Yes.
Well,
because
I think it's interesting. The book that I'm working on with Rebecca, when I started writing it, it wasn't really going to be YA. It was just going to be, kind of adult. There's going to be violence, maybe, a lot of swearing, probably, maybe sex. I don't know. I didn't have a plan. But once we started working on it together, it became more clear that it needed to be more YA, which I never thought I would write a YA book. But so now it's kind of like we're going in the opposite direction, where it's like, okay, we're taking out stuff that is too intense. Which is strange for me. Usually I'm trying to amp it up to really jar the reader, but it's like, okay, I don't want to traumatize you at this point.
Well, actually, I am my writing is that as writers we try to write different types of things just to see if we can do it. Okay, I because I do love writing swear words in my writing, and I feel my work is very adult, especially Quandaries of Love. That's very adult. And while I'm writing another piece, I am trying to be there's one narrative in Quandaries of Love in which it was a twofold challenge for me. First fold is just writing in prose, because I am first dialogue. That's what I hear first. That's what I think first. That's what I write first. I am a dialogue first and first person at that person. So writing prose, she's telling the story. And then second challenge was not to use any curse words. And there's actually only one, and 17-year-old people say it. Okay. It's just the one word. She says hell. Okay. That's the only curse word in the entire narrative, which was a challenge for me. Writing prose and one curse word.
Wow.
Because if you ever pick up Quandaries of Love, well, That's why it has the E. And I'm proud of that because I write how I talk and I talk how I write. I've personally never have had writer's block.
That's awesome. That's really cool. I'm impressed that you wrote a book with only a single swear word. I mean,
narrative, not a book. Narrative.
Oh, narrative.
Within
Okay.
The book.
Okay.
Within the book. Oh no, but the entire book is well.
I was going to say, I've walked in on my 12-year-old talking to their friends, and I'm like, I'm just going to go the other way. I don't want to hear this.
No, there was just that one narrative, and it's Sonata in 3 parts, and the one curse word does come from the teenager.
I learned most of my curse words from Katie Saulitis, so I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I have to censor myself. I have to, oh no, I can't keep saying that. One of my echoes, I talk about echoes all the time. One of my echoes is the F word, so I really have to calm that one down.
No, I don't have that. I simply don't. I don't. I don't. I write how I talk how I write. So
I love that you said that you initially talk or you initially write the dialogue first, because I'm the exact same way. I hear the characters speak before I see what they're doing. And so my first drafts tend to be skeleton drafts. They're more like a screenplay because there's a lot of dialogue, a lot of conversation, and maybe a little stage direction here or there. And then my next revision is where I add the meat to the bones.
I have to put in where they're talking and, you know, and the scenery and everything, the setting in which this conversation is taking place. But it's first and foremost, they're talking. There are people talking, and I have to decipher, okay, are there 2 women talking? Is there a man and a woman talking? Are there 2 men talking? So I have to decipher which sex, you know, are talking. And so once I figure out, you know, which ones are talking, if it's 2 women talking, then, you know, fine, I'll put them in whatever setting. If it's a man and a woman talking, a little more different. But if it's 2 men talking, I have to really think of a setting in which men would be actually talking, because there are not a lot of places in which 2 men are actually talking.
Yeah. Yep. And realistically, I mean, if you reading in a lot of books, it's, you know, they'll put men talking wherever, but yeah, in the real world, it's
difficult to find places where 2 men are actually talking to to each other. Never mind talking to each other. So there are very few in real life where settings in which men are talking to each other.
A lot of times you're doing something while you're talking, and that's the other area you add meat to the bones. What are they doing while they're talking?
Yeah. Well, not so much with women. Women talk everywhere all the time in any setting.
Right? Over a glass of wine, we'll just sit and chit-chat and bullshit for hours. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And men and women. Okay, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, don't. Go ahead.
Even then, though, even if they're bullshitting over a glass of wine, they're still doing stuff. They're still lounging on the couch. They're still filling the wine glass. They're still moving within the scene. It's not just sitting static for 2 hours talking.
Well, I think that the perfect situation for, like, if you were going to use my wife as one of the female characters, the perfect place for you to set up a dialogue with them is after she's told me, okay, it's time to leave, and I open the door to go to the car. That's when the big conversation starts up between her and whoever is in the house. But that might be a Midwest thing. The Midwest goodbye is it takes like 30 minutes. I just go to the car and sit. I'm like, no, you said it's time to go. I'm out.
Well, in several of the dialogue pieces in Quandaries of Love, I do have just the women talking to each other without doing something, like busying themselves. That's what I call it, busying themselves. But that's it's a bit more, it's easier to have women talking to each other, and it's kind of 50-50 for me to have a man and a woman talking, because sometimes they are just that they're talking, and depending on the relationships they had with each other. I mean, if they're just if they're just 2 people just, walking a dog or something, and this is, or if they have an emotional connection to each other. So, that's where I have to start actually kind of, after I write down all the dialogue, I just write down whatever the hell is being said. And then I figure out, which voice is saying, which voice is talking. And that's how I weave my setting around what is around whom is talking. And so that's how I weave mine. But
one of my my favorite things to do is I have two characters who their conversations always happen over sparring sessions. And so while they're talking, they are fighting. They're it's a trainer and the person being trained, but they're fighting. They're throwing punches. They're being knocked down to the mat. They're rolling over. They're avoiding a kick. There's always something happening to kind of break up the dialogue, so it doesn't feel so static.
Yeah. I like to actually build the setting with my dialogue. So I from what they're saying, I like to feel that the reader feels where they are. Like if there's a conversation like in an apartment, I'm using different settings within the apartment to draw the picture that they are in an apartment. Like one of my characters is saying, she's telling the agent why she's not doing what she's supposed to be doing, which is writing. She says, well, I was making my favorite mimosa, and I'm watching my Star Trek, which my favorite Star Trek episode. And so it's just like, so I'm painting the picture. They're in the apartment, because I don't actually say that they're in her apartment. So have you ever built your scenes using simply dialogue?
Oh yeah. Speaking of cats, we talked about it earlier. I don't know if you can hear it.
Yeah.
I told you the minute he wants something, he's going to make his presence known. And there he goes. He's outside my door just saying, I'm food. I'm hungry. Feed me.
I heard that.
And see, using the cat's dialogue, we could figure out, okay, the cat's outside Katie's door and it's hungry.
Yeah.
He's not shutting up either.
Oh, that's too funny.
Where's the dog? Damn it. Get the cat. Shut the cat up.
But have you ever there was this I've always had this thing, and since I'm talking to two different writers, the tags, like he said, she said, I hate tags. And I've had people say that they have difficulty following my dialogue because I don't use those tags, because I like to have, it's like you've been in a conversation with another person. I'm not sure why you wouldn't be able to follow a conversation without she said, go outside, she said, and says, I'm not leaving, he said.
Yeah.
Have you run into that?
I like fewer dialogue tags myself, but I understand that people do get confused. So I make sure that, every few lines, if it is a dialogue heavy scene, every few lines, there is a tag just to re-clarify for people. But otherwise, I think that things flow a little bit more smoothly if there aren't tags. I mean, it feels more natural, right? But yeah, it can.
That's how people talk.
Yeah, editors don't like
I've
that.
had that. Yeah. Fortunately, I don't write for editors.
Darn editors, they're no good.
I write for. I'm not. No. I would never say that. But no, the editor of my Quandaries of Love loved how she edited my book. Because I told her, I will dot the I's and cross the T's, and I just need you to put in the commas and the periods. And her name is Joyce Mockery, and she did a wonderful job with that kind of editing. But I specifically do not write towards editors. I write towards readers because I am a reader. So that's why I just made the comment. I don't write for editors. I just like for them to correct my punctuation.
But
I'll stay
sometimes,
out of that conversation.
yeah,
I have a strong opinion, so I will stay out
Well,
of that conversation.
on that note, Katie, don't we have another sponsor to talk about?
We do. And she is always very active in the comments because she absolutely loves us and we love her. Mistress Rebecca Dirty Jonesy. She does her live readings every Wednesday on her Facebook page. You need to go check these out. She's an amazing reader and her stories are fabulous. You will love them, I promise.
Rebecca is really, really good. I love her stuff, and I love working with Rebecca. She's just a great lady, and I have to say that she does sponsor my other show. And Rebecca, I would really like it, even if it's only 15 seconds, and it would be good for this show as well. If you could just give us a little audio recording, kind of like Joe does for Go Indie Now at the pre-roll. I would, I'd love to be able to have your voice on it for people to make that connection.
Yes, so we can put a little face and audio with the name, so people can get a taste of. Like I said, she's a fabulous reader. I read every weekend for my stories, and I trip up over my words all the time, and I don't always have the right inflection. Even though I wrote the story, I know what the inflection should be. But she puts so much passion and life into the way she reads. Oh my God, I want to be her when I grow up.
Yeah. Which is why for my audiobooks, I read it myself. I have this thing about authors reading their own work, because you as the writer, you as the author, you know where you want the inflections to be, where you want the emphasis to be. And I mean, nothing against audio actors or anything like that, but I have this authentic. It feels more authentic to me when the writer reads what they wrote, because they know what they meant and how they meant it.
It's funny is that, and we're long on time now, but it's interesting that you said that, because I like listening to authors read their own work as well. However, even though I've done voice work and I'm perfectly comfortable in front of a mic, and I actually read pretty well in front of a mic, I can't read my own stuff for some reason. It doesn't work for me. I think that when I read my own work in my head, it's all just in like this kind of monotone. It's all just in normal J conversational voice, and it doesn't sound right. So I really, and I like having female narrators too. I like the way the voice sounds. So it works a lot better for me to hire someone else. But yeah, I do love it when authors do their own work. It just feels special.
Why am I in trouble with Rebecca?
Yeah.
I don't know. What did you do?
I don't know. I'm in trouble with Rebecca for something.
Okay.
And Joe says, Valerie, you were fantastic. The other two,
Well, thank you. Thank you so much.
Valerie, it was really great to have you on this show. Thank you so much
Absolutely.
for sharing all your insights with us.
Thank you so much. And I like I said, I'm a consistent fan of the show, and I love it. I love live.
Awesome.
Well, we loved having you, and you are welcome back anytime. Just remember, shoot us a message if you've got some things coming up you want us to talk about. And for our viewers out there, we want to thank you, as always, for watching. And as Joe said, smash that like button. It helps the YouTube algorithms. And of course, it helps you to get notified when we do new shows, which, if you remember, is every Saturday. So we will be here next week with more fun conversations. I believe next week we've got the amazing JD Estrada coming back. So you don't want to miss that one.
Love JD.
Until then, guys, take care. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.
Thank